Michael Cohen has copped a plea. Specifically, this is actually separate from the whole Stormy Daniels thing, which is I think has been our main exposure to Michael Cohen and Trump's legal troubles in the last couple of months. But this is specifically around lying to Congress around the timing of a Trump possible joint venture for a hotel in Russia. The lie was that the talks of this deal had concluded. The project never went forward, and Cohen was lying to Congress, saying that these talks stopped before the Iowa caucuses. Turns out they continued after the Iowa caucuses. So, this is just kind of, regardless of any bigger kind of Russia stuff here, this is just the sort of like, we're in on monuments. Why can't I say that? We're in the just, using the campaign, using the office.
Emoluments?
Emoluments. We're in that territory here. I don't know why I can't say that today. It's bizarre. But Donald Trump, he's on his way to Argentina for the G20 summit. It's sure to be there's going to be a lot of action there. There's actually a citizens' effort and attorneys' effort to apprehend MBS there in Buenos Aires as well. So hopefully the left will be out in strong force protesting in Argentina. Donald Trump's on his way there, and he, of course, had a very succinct, very clear answer to the Michael Cohen question that got shouted to him this morning on the White House lawn. This is really when Trump is sort of lying and all over the place like this, but still in a very obvious way hedging his language. Mm-hmm. This is when you know that he's quite aware and quite tense about his potential jeopardy he's in.
Yeah, he likes to explore different ways of framing and putting things into language.
Exactly. And it's super subtle. Nobody can tell.
Michael Cohen has made many statements to the House, as I understand it, and the Senate. He put out a statement talking about a project which was essentially, I guess, more or less of an option that we were looking at in Moscow. Everybody knew about it. It was written about in newspapers. It was a well-known project. It was during the early part of 16, and I guess even before that. It lasted a short period of time. I didn't do the project. I decided not to do the project, so I didn't do it. So we're not talking about doing a project. We're talking about not doing a project. Michael Cohen, what he's doing is he was convicted, I guess. You'll have to put it into legal terms. But he was convicted with a fairly long-term sentence on things totally unrelated to the Trump organization, having to do with mortgages and having to do with cheating the IRS, perhaps, a lot of different things. I don't know exactly, but he was convicted of various things unrelated to us. He was given a fairly long jail sentence, and he's a weak person. And by being weak, unlike other people that you watch, he's a weak person, and what he's trying to do is get a reduced sentence. So he's lying about a project that everybody knew about. I mean, we were very open with it. We were thinking about building a building. I guess we had in a form, it was an option. I don't know what you'd call it. I decided ultimately not to do it. There would have been nothing wrong if I did do it. If I did do it, there would have been nothing wrong. That was my business.
It's beautiful. So, well, I'm sure there are a variety of legal troubles that Michael Cohen's involved in. Definitely his plea bargains have definitely all had to do with the Trump organization because that was his prime employer and who he was primarily lying on behalf of. The person he's talking about who might have more character than Michael Cohen is clearly Paul Manafort, who is a calculating career criminal who's still hoping for a pardon that Donald Trump is dangling in front of him.
That's what he said. That's what I said. That's obviously what our position is.
Exactly, Paul. And so, and just to add to the comedy of lies here, we now have, you have one son who is clearly the product of neglect and whatever ultra bizarre emotional and psychic issues are going on in that house. And he's the one who Trump will, I don't know, maybe follow back on Twitter or something. Of course, I'm talking about Don Jr. Then you have the other son who there's just a lot of basic misfortune with this guy, and he's the true embarrassment. And this clip is not helping.
Every time there's an international incident, they say, well, the president's too nice to Vladimir Putin. That's because he has so many investments in Russia. He says he's too open to letting this investigation play out. That's because he has investments in Saudi Arabia. You're running the Trump organization. What's the reality?
There's zero investments in Russia. There's zero investments in Saudi. We have absolutely nothing to do with those countries. And by the way, my father's been tougher on Russia than probably any human being in the world. That's what happens when you give offensive weapons to Ukraine, right? Obama never did that. That's what happens when you promote American energy. You take away their largest financial, stream, which is oil. I mean, that's what built oil and gas is what built Russia. And all of a sudden we're saying, hey, you know what? Why don't you buy American oil? We've got a lot of great oil workers. We've got a lot of great energy in the U.S. How about this? We'll supply you all the energy you could ever possibly need. Don't buy it from Russia.
Have you talked to your dad about?
Okay. So obviously we'll start. He's lying. There's relationships with Russia. We know this. Then Saudi, well, maybe look to Jared Kushner on that relationship. Then there's, okay, yes, this actually is important to bear in mind for the resistance types. And I'm not somebody, I think that people needed a much smarter, more nuanced perspective about what happened in Ukraine several years ago. There was obviously a fascistic far right that opposed a Russian presence there, but there was also a left-oriented democracy movement, and it's complicated. And I'm not interested in excusing Russian Monroe policy any more than I'm interested in excusing U.S. Monroe policy in terms of controlling its neighbors. That being said, it was great that Barack Obama didn't fuel that conflict by giving offensive weapons to Ukraine. And there's a lot of neoliberal hawk idiots, and that was a subtle but hugely important difference between Obama and Hillary Clinton, because she did want to ramp up the weapons capacity of what's sent to Ukraine. So if this becomes another thing where you're pushing Trump to cover up these bizarre connections, which really are going to amount to questions of oligarchy and corruption with the Russian regime, to fuel an ultra-hawkish NATO expansionist policy, along with what he's already doing with arms control, that would be, well, just be polite, very short-sighted. And the third point is I don't think any oil-producing country that is blocking the transition to a post-fossil fuel world is going to be extremely happy with the Trump administration's approach to energy, including Russia.
Yeah, anybody going through an FBI investigation, there's sort of an unfairness, like as we'll sort of discover in the interview coming up, I think.
Right.
That it's sort of like running hurdles in a pitch dark gymnasium. But with the Mueller investigation, the reason I'm not so concerned about the unfairness is that it's like making the worst people in the world to run through that hurdle.
Yeah, they're the worst people on earth.
So
and there's going to be things there. I mean, that's the thing that's so funny about it. It's like, if there's nothing to the Russia thing, and I think it's proven at this point, there's definitely something to it. But even if there was nothing to it, if you put a team of forensic investigators on the Trump organization's finances,
exactly.
I mean, are you kidding me?
It's going to be hard for them to not run up into something like
if you didn't find multiple global crimes, I would be shocked, like genuinely.
I still think that they're going to get out of it somehow.
Who, everybody?
I mean, not everybody.
Okay, not everybody, but like Trump and his top guys.
I mean,
I don't think Manafort's going to get away.
Manafort's not. Manafort's there, but anyway, I mean, whatever. Regardless, so bleed him out for 2020. Whatever way you spin it, it's not good politically for him to have to be on the lawn talking this nonsense. That's not a good look.